want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Action!
He's a character actor mixed with a leading man. He's a rock star, vampire, pirate, kingpin with a golden chest full of memorable, wild characters. Characters that someone as good-looking as him shouldn't be allowed to play. But Johnny played it, and he played it to the bone. And he paved the way for extremely good-looking people to play eccentric, exciting, sometimes ugly roles. Johnny Depp seems to choose his acting gigs based on how fun they will be. And because of Johnny, we all have a little bit more fun at the movies. He's refreshingly fearless. And my favorite type of movie star, the movie star that hates being a movie star. The reluctant celebrity. The guy doesn't even watch his own films. How cool is that? Johnny Depp has as much talent as he does bracelets. But lately it seems like his star has fallen a bit. And I have been assigned by the good people at JoBlo.com to get to the bottom of this. And find out the truth. Find out what the happened. So once again I ask the vulgar yet necessary question, what the happened to Johnny Depp?
Good, isn't it?
Johnny has had a very unusual journey to the top of Tinseltown, and a sudden scandalous fall that killed his career dead as Dillinger. But now new revelations are coming out about Johnny that show that maybe we turned our backs a little too soon on this guy. And I'm not saying this guy's totally innocent, but he's totally not guilty. But to truly understand where Johnny Depp is right now, in the scope of all the things, we must start at the beginning. Johnny Depp was born in Kentucky and dropped out of high school to become a rock star. But unfortunately, he would have to settle with just being a movie star. Johnny Depp was a young, struggling musician. He had some early success with his band The Kids. They were opening for bands like the Talking Heads, Iggy Pop, and the Ramones. That's pretty good. And Depp was lucky enough to become friends with Nicolas Cage, who was a rising star at that moment. And he saw potential in this young Johnny Depp, so he hooked him up with a few things, and the next thing you know, Johnny Depp is a professional thespian. Nick Cage is a good friend to have. Johnny made his film debut as a kid who gets eaten by a bed in Nightmare on Elm Street. And this was actually his first major audition for a movie, and he got the part, which is unheard of in Hollywood. But Wes Craven originally passed on this young man because he thought he was strange looking. But what does Wes Craven know? And he changed his mind when his daughter said that Depp was dreamy. So Wes Craven put Mr. Dreamy in his nightmare. Then came Private Resort. It was a teen comedy that impressed nobody. But then Johnny Depp joined the ensemble cast of Platoon, which involved 10 tough weeks in the Philippines. And he went through things like boot camp and sleeping overnight in the jungle. Some pretty intense stuff. But unfortunately, most of Johnny's scenes were edited out and ended up on the cutting room floor, which was very disappointing for Johnny. Oddly enough, Oliver Stone said that Depp was cut for being too interesting, and Johnny Depp's character was distracting from Charlie Sheen's character and the plot. Oliver was like, cut this guy, he's too good, which is a really strange compliment, I guess. Platoon was supposed to be a big door opener for his career, but since he was chopped out, that didn't happen. And Johnny actually had a hard time finding work on the big screen for a while. So he reluctantly signed on to star in the undercover high school series, 21 Jump Street.
This is a waste of two highly trained, moderately paid city employees. We're doing nothing but waiting around to be witnesses. I hate doing nothing.
Yeah, but it's fun. Hey!
And this turned him into a teen idol, which is the worst kind of idol. Johnny Depp hated every second of his time on 21 Jump Street. He was just hoping for a quick paycheck so he could move on to do something more satisfying, and he honestly didn't think the show would last that long. But unfortunately, the show was a huge success, and Mr. Depp was stuck. Johnny tried really hard to get fired, and he misbehaved a bit on set. Harmless stuff like burning his underwear and dressing like Elton John to protest. But his contract had him locked down in this artistically unfulfilling show. This silly sitcom lifestyle left Johnny restless, and he lashed out with his bad boy behavior, getting into fights and doing lots of drugs and drinking a lot of that alcohol. You know, classic Hollywood bad boy things, just being a boy, being bad. with lots of money. I'm sure we all can relate. But he was able to use his teen idol status and twist it into something complex and unique, with the help of a brilliant yet disgusting visionary filmmaker John Waters in the musical satire Cry Baby. This showed everyone that Johnny could shine in offbeat cinematic worlds, created by offbeat directors, and he actually used his curse of Hollywood good looks for the benefit of the story and the character, using his powers for good, not evil. Johnny completely recreated his image by spoofing his teeny bopper days, and making fun of himself allowed him to reinvent himself as an actor. It was brilliant. It was the perfect move. Now it was time to crank up the quirkiness and bring out his darker side. That's when he teamed up with his hetero life partner, Tim Burton, and he took a huge risk playing Edward Scissorhands, a guy named Edward who had scissors for hands. And yes, this was a huge risk for Johnny's career. You don't just take a pretty face like that and turn it into this. But that's what they did. That's what Johnny and Timmy did, and the risk paid off. And it kind of created a whole new subculture for gothic kids who like scissors. This modern-day Frankenstein love story earned Johnny Depp his first Golden Globe nomination, and it was a huge hit at the box office. His collaboration with Tim Burton would become one of the greatest cinematic partnerships of all time. A match made in movie heaven. Creepy, gothic, hellish movie heaven, that is. It's hard to imagine Johnny Depp without Tim Burton, and it's hard to imagine Tim Burton without Johnny Depp. It just fits. It just feels right. Johnny had found his niche. Wacky, misunderstood, lovable, good-looking goofball outcasts. And he continued that with Benny and June, playfully channeling the greats of the silent age. He was flipping around, doing his own comedic stunts. Critics liked it, and he got another Golden Globe nomination.
Brad, please don't be dead. Brad, I never got a chance to tell you what you meant to me. Oh, Brad, please.
He also did Arizona Dream, another bizarre, unusual film. But unfortunately for Johnny, he was becoming more famous for his love life at that time than his performances. Johnny always hated that red carpet stuff, and I'm sure the fact that Johnny didn't happily cooperate with this red carpet culture slowed down his career a bit. And he also slowed things down a bit on screen while playing a quiet yet mysterious man in the film What's Eating Gilbert Grape. This film was actually Johnny's idea. He read the book and loved it and, spoke to the filmmakers, and the next thing you know, Johnny is starring alongside a young Leo, who stole the show, of course, but don't let Leo's desperate Oscar bait screams fool you. Johnny is the soul of this wonderful film, and you can't take your eyes off him, even when Leo is murdering grasshoppers. In 1994, he did Ed Wood and got another Golden Globe nomination. This is Tim Burton's great film about a not-so-great filmmaker. Johnny is once again wonderful, and he never holds back while playing this outrageous, toothless cross-dresser. He's funny, he's caring, he's silly, and you root for him the whole time. Even the real-life widow of Ed Wood approved of this fearless performance. When she looked at Johnny, she said, "That's my Eddie." I'm just assuming that's what she sounded like.
Hey! Cops!
We don't have a permit. Run! Let's go.
Depp unapologetically kills it in every scene, alongside his buddy Mr. Martin Landau, in a much-deserved Oscar-winning performance as Bela Lugosi. And even though this wasn't a financial success, the critics loved it. And those critics, they sure know what they're talking about. When I agree with them, that is. The film Ed Wood reignited Johnny's love for acting, and it was actually hard for Johnny to get out of character. He would often find himself randomly becoming Ed Wood long after the film had wrapped. That's scary. Then he did the film Don Juan de Marco, and he only agreed to do the film so he could work with his idol Marlon Brando. Then there was Dead Man. He is perfect in this art house western directed by Jim Jarmusch. Beautiful, black and white. It has a quirky yet disturbing tone that Johnny thrives in. I love this movie. Everybody should love this movie.
Do you know my poetry?
Speaking of love, his love life was still all over the tabloids. And his wild child antics were getting out of control, which included fighting with the paparazzi, doing even more drugs, and drinking even more booze than usual. Plus, he got arrested for trashing a hotel and spent the night in jail. He's such a bad boy. Johnny was living life on the edge, and it just made him cooler. He was a badass rebel, but also a drunken Hollywood cliché. But nobody really seemed to care about his behavior because he's just so cool. Remember, kids, you can get away with anything if you're cool. Then he took on a more mainstream action thriller in Nick of Time, but it did not do too well. It's not bad, but it was not his golden ticket to the A-list. Then Johnny was torn apart by the critics for his directorial debut, The Brave. This was his passion project, producer, writer, director, actor. He was honoring his Cherokee roots alongside his buddy Brando. It seemed like the perfect artistic outlet for Johnny, and maybe it was, but the world was not ready for it. The Brave debuted at Cannes with horrible reviews, so horrible that it was never even released in the United States. That's bad. It looks good though. Next, he did a much better film called Donnie Brasco. And like 21 Jump Street, Johnny once again goes undercover, but this time it's not in a high school, it's in the f***ing mafia, with Al Pacino. This was Johnny's first venture into the gangster crime genre, and Donnie Brasco turned Johnny Depp into a made man in Hollywood. Still didn't do too well at the box office though, but that's okay. Johnny always delivers fantastic performances, but was still a gamble at the box office. In 1998 came the masterpiece Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. This cult classic was a big box office failure and was based off a book that was considered unfilmable. But Terry Gilliam and Johnny, well, they filmed it. Johnny Depp had always admired Hunter S. Thompson, so the pressure was on. And in order to do this right, Johnny took a deep dive into the life of Thompson, which included living with the madman on his ranch for quite a while, and the two became quick friends. Hunter actually even shaved Johnny's head. In 1999, he worked with Roman Polanski in the occult thriller The Ninth Gate. That same year, he was in The Astronaut's Wife. He played the astronaut. Also in 1999, the greatest year for movies ever, by the way, Johnny starred in Sleepy Hollow. Tim Burton begged the studio to let him team up with his BFF once again, and after some convincing, they finally let him. Johnny Depp played a different type of Ichabod Crane. No longer a goofy, gangly geek with a big nose. No, this time he was a sexy, gothic geek with a small nose. This is one of my favorites, and Johnny doesn't try to be a badass hero in this, like other actors would have. No. He plays this character very vulnerable and incredibly sympathetic. A very unusual protagonist for this type of film. It's great. It'll get your head rolling. And in the year 2000, he was in The Man Who Cried, and took on 2 roles in Before Night Falls as a police lieutenant and a transvestite prisoner. Roles that only Johnny could do. That same year, he played a very seductive gypsy man in the film Chocolat, or Chocolate. Chocolate. I just pretend like it's a prequel to Willy Wonka to make it more interesting. 2001 brought us Blow, and he improvised many lines. Of dialogue, that is, not cocaine. This is one of his best roles. Blow is one of those big epic true stories about drugs and the people who sold them, money and crime. You know, one of those. And Johnny carries this terrific film all the way. That same year, he did the film From Hell, based on the graphic novel. Johnny claims to have always been obsessed with the Jack the Ripper case, so he really enjoyed working on this film. It's pretty good.
You're not going to see the 20th century.
Then one day, Johnny Depp realized that his kids couldn't watch most of his movies. So he called up Disney in hopes of voicing a quick animation or something, and little did anyone know that would lead to one of Johnny Depp's greatest creations. 2003 brought us Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl, and it was a massive, massive hit. But remember, at the time, this sounded like a horrible idea. Cutthroat Island was still kind of fresh on everybody's mind, and basing a film on a theme park ride sounded like a lame sellout. But with the help of Johnny, Disney delivered a wonderful adventure of a movie. And this is where Johnny got a strange amount of freedom and allowed him to create his most iconic character yet, Captain Jack Sparrow. Modeled off his Rolling Stone buddy Keith Richards. And not just anybody can just make an iconic Disney character. I mean, now, Captain Jack Sparrow, you see him sitting up there on the shelves of the Disney store right next to Mickey Mouse, and you know he belongs. Johnny Depp was so good that they actually added his character to the original ride. And now when you say Pirates of the Caribbean, nobody thinks about the ride, they think about Johnny Depp.
I may have deserved that.
Only Johnny Depp could make a drunken, womanizing thief appealing to a family-friendly crowd. And he did it. Real-life pirates are horrible and evil, but Johnny is so charming that it just makes it all okay. I love this swashbuckling adventure almost as much as I love saying swashbuckling. And Pirates of the Caribbean got Johnny Depp his first Oscar nomination, which is almost unheard of for this type of film. A big-budget action comedy? Disney movie? Oscar nominated? No way! But yes way. This was the top-grossing movie of that year, making a whole lot of box office booty. And it was all thanks to Johnny Depp, who was now a bankable actor.
He spent 3 days lying on a beach drinking rum.
Welcome to the Caribbean, lad.
Then came Once Upon a Time in Mexico. He stole the show in this mariachi sequel. He's such a badass in this. He shoots a guy just for making tacos too good. His eyeballs are out. It's just he's having fun, and I'm having fun watching him have fun. We need more movies like this, more fun movies. Secret Window was pretty good. It was a nice Stephen King thriller, but the twist ending was spoiled for me, so I'm not really sure if I truly enjoyed the film or not. Did you enjoy the film? Did you see the twist coming? Comment your comment in the comments. So suddenly, Johnny Depp's filmography was getting pretty impressive. Johnny had a lot more respect, and everybody had their eyes on what he was going to do next. I remember thinking, wow, Jack Sparrow was amazing. Oh, such awesome characters he's creating. Such wild, out of control, exciting, eccentric, hyperactive, wacky goofballs. I can't wait to see what he does next. Who will he bring to life on the silver screen? I'm just waiting, and then came Finding Neverland in 2004. Which is a fine film, he gives a fine performance, but it just wasn't what I wanted from Johnny Depp at that time. But that's what Johnny Depp does, he surprises you. Just when you think he's gonna go full goofball, he goes kind of boring. Which is still good.
James. We're just having some tea. You remember my mother, of course?
Yes, of course. How do you do?
This was a much quieter character for Johnny, but he still got to pretend to be a pirate for like a scene or two, so that's nice. He played the author of Peter Pan, and they left out all the creepy things about him, which would have been a completely different movie. And of course, Johnny got another Oscar nomination for this one. Oh, and I feel like I need to mention his hilarious guest appearance on King of the Hill as a yoga instructor. That's funny. Yoga's just funny in general. People with their butts in the air, like comedy gold. Then came The Libertine, a creepy, overly sexual film that I don't think I'm allowed to watch. Then there was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which I am allowed to watch. Johnny had to live up to Gene Wilder while doing something completely different while also honoring the book. It was quite the task, and Johnny definitely made some interesting choices. He played Willy Wonka as like a even more flamboyant version of Michael Jackson or something. I don't know. It's not my favorite Tim Burton-Johnny collaboration, but it was definitely a good try. Critics and audiences were divided on this one. I know a lot of people that really like it. I know a lot of people that hate it, like chocolate. To some people, it tastes really good, and to other people, it makes them have explosive diarrhea. So that's how I think of this film.
Good morning, Starshine. The Earth says hello.
I respect the risk that Johnny Depp took here, but I like Corpse Bride much, much more. It's a fabulous Tim Burton stop-motion animation. Pure Burton. Johnny Depp did it because he loves the art of stop-motion, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. Look at that. It's so Tim Burton-y. And he was also hard at work filming 2 pirate sequels at once, Dead Man's Chest and At World's End. I remember liking Dead Man's Chest alright, but I was totally over the franchise by the 3rd one. But these movies make so much money that it doesn't matter what I think, they're just gonna keep making them and making them and making them, and they did. Just like real piracy, it never ends. And we cannot forget Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Another Burton movie. Johnny wasn't exactly sure if he had the singing chops to handle this film, but he tried it anyway, and he did. And earned another Oscar nomination. Watch this film, you'll have a bloody good time. He did another great guest appearance on a cartoon show, this time it was SpongeBob, and he joined the cast of the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, taking over the late great Heath Ledger's unfinished role, with the help of Colin Farrell and Jude Law. Then he did the gangsta thing again, and played John Dillinger in Public Enemies. I really like this film, but the digital camera work is very distracting. It takes you out of the time period in what would otherwise be a very terrific film. I really like Michael Mann's style, and it works in modern settings like Collateral and Miami Vice, but the obvious digital image, it just doesn't work in a film set in the 30s. And even though the performances are superb, at times it feels like a dress rehearsal. And I know I'm being harsh, but I need to be. I can't just go through every film and be like, this was good, this was good, this was good, this was good. I can't say that everything he did was perfect, because that's not what film criticism is. The year 2010 took Alice to Wonderland, with another Tim Burton movie. He played the Mad Hatter, and this was another box office smash hit. The character design is amazing, the costumes, the makeup, and Johnny of course is having a blast. But it was a little too much for me. Maybe it was the 3D, maybe that extra dimension overwhelmed me, but it's just not my favorite. But who cares what I think? This sucker made a lot of money, like $1 billion with a B. And then he did The Tourist, which should have been a hit, but it wasn't. It had the 2 biggest movie stars in the world teaming up on a sexy adventure. But no, nobody went. It was a big failure. Nobody cared. There was no chemistry between Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie, and this film almost represents like the death of the movie star. The age of the movie star was ending. And was it Johnny Depp's fault? Sure, why not? And he should be proud of that. And this was also the first sign that Johnny Depp was maybe not as powerful as we believed. But he finally found his perfect cartoon alter ego in Rango. He really shines as this reptilian cowboy. And it's not just Johnny's voice. No, this lizard is all Johnny. In order to truly capture the movement and the spirit of the characters, the actors actually acted out the action while recording the audio. Just Rango, it's such a good movie. Johnny Depp, he's a lizard. It's a western full of critters. It's just fun stuff. Then came Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. It's another Pirates movie. I'm sure it's fine, but they all start to blend together to me, so I can't even tell you if this is a good one or a bad one, because they're all just there. I love the first one. I love Johnny Depp's performances, don't get me wrong. I just can't keep them straight. He then took a big sip of the Rum Diary. This film allowed him to channel Hunter S. Thompson once again. And he met his future wife / arch nemesis, Amber Heard. We'll get to that later. And as you know, Johnny Depp hated working on 21 Jump Street. But he still made a magnificent cameo appearance in the Channing Tatum version of 21 Jump Street. It was perfect timing, just the right amount of cameo-ness. The art of the cameo is very tricky, and they handled it well in this one. This cameo is actually very symbolic of how far Johnny has come in his career. He started out as the young hotshot, and now he's an experienced veteran, covered with disguise makeup.
Yeah. Come on, you guys are Jump Street?
Yeah.
That's funny because we were actually Jump Street.
What? That's
yeah.
crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Most of Johnny Depp's best work is with Tim Burton, but that doesn't mean that every time that Johnny Depp and Tim Burton team up, it's gonna be perfect movie magic. No, sometimes they're not great. No, sometimes they even suck. Like a vampire sucks blood. I'm sorry, I really tried to like Dark Shadows, but it just wasn't my thing. It seemed like it could have been the perfect Tim Burton film, but the humor just ruined it for this one. And yes, Johnny Depp is great as this vampire, but the material is less than stellar stuff. This was followed by The Lone Ranger, which should have mimicked the success of the Pirates franchise, but it fell short. And even though this film has its passionate supporters, for the most part this is considered a big, confusing mess of a movie. But Johnny seems to be having fun, and some say this film deserves a second chance, so I don't know, watch it again. Let me know what you think.
Yes.
And of course, Johnny was criticized by online trolls about his portrayal as an indigenous Native American human being person. But those angry tweets from the social justice mob were the least of Johnny's worries. He was soon haunted by a string of flops, one of those being the film Transcendence. This turd of a movie lost millions of dollars and has like 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. It looks like it should have been a good movie, but it isn't. And there was the god-awful Mordecai, which had a $60 million budget but only earned back $8 million at the box office. And as we know, Johnny likes to have fun with his characters, but this time he was having a little bit too much fun, and I think he was the only one having fun. It was a big no for Mordecai. It left me mortified. Then he had a slight comeback with the musical Into the Woods. Johnny was cast as a wolf, but I remember the costume design being very disappointing and confusing to audiences. It's not what they were expecting when they heard that Johnny Depp was going to play a wolf. It's like just some guy wearing whiskers and a hat? I don't know. I'm sure you theater nerds loved it, but most people weren't too impressed. And for some reason, he appeared in Kevin Smith's walrus body horror film Tusk, which is kind of a guilty pleasure, I guess. He plays a Canadian detective or something, and he's totally unrecognizable, just the way Johnny likes it. And he would later revisit this character that nobody cared about in the film starring his daughter where she fights Nazi sausages. Once again, Johnny was having a little bit too much fun here, but I respect his efforts. Then he shook us all up when he showed off those scary baby blues and Black Mass. Once again playing a famous gangsta, this time he portrays Whitey Bulger. The only thing not surprising about Johnny Depp is that he keeps surprising us. Just when you thought we'd seen it all from Depp, he delivers this bone-chilling performance.
We good?
Yeah, we're good.
Many thought characters like this were kind of out of Johnny's range, but no. His range is infinite, apparently. He is truly scary in Black Mass and truly cool. But not everything Johnny does is cool, depending on your definition of cool, that is. He threatened to assassinate the president. And no matter what your politics, this is never a good idea. In front of a large crowd, he jokingly asked the question, when was the last time an actor assassinated a president? Referencing actor-assassin John Wilkes Booth and Abe Lincoln, of course. And yeah, many laughed out loud at this silly little joke, but some really took it seriously, and some of those people who took it seriously were the Secret Service. They extensively looked into this joke/threat, and Johnny joined the long list of celebrities who say stupid things about politics. These kinds of things are not funny, because people could die. Speaking of being funny and dying, Johnny Depp played Donald J. Trump in a Funny or Die movie. It was an okay impression, still better than Baldwin though. So it just leaves you with the question, is it funny or should it die? Then it also leaves you with the question, is death an appropriate punishment for not being funny? Seems a little harsh.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
Another major flop soon followed with Alice Through the Looking Glass. It should have been a massive hit like the first one, but for some reason this baby lost close to $70 million at the box office. Audiences did not follow this white rabbit down the hole. Then there was another Pirates of the Caribbean movie called Dead Men Tell No Tales, which I completely forgot about. Even though Captain Jack Sparrow is not a forgettable character, I somehow forgot that there was yet another Pirates movie. They all blend together. Everybody loves them some Jack, and Johnny knows the power that this character has on people of all ages. So to take his mind off the Hollywood hustle and bustle, Johnny Depp visits children's hospitals dressed in character as Captain Jack Sparrow. He's like the nicest pirate ever. Look at that. He's not even pillaging or anything. But seriously, this is like the coolest thing that Johnny Depp has ever done. Oh yeah, and then there was the murder on the Orient Express. He was part of an ensemble cast that was so big that Johnny kinda gets lost in this one, but he does a fine job. Then he did the animation thing again with Sherlock Gnomes. I could barely sit through the trailer on this one. It has 27% Rotten Tomatoes, and it features a gnome twerking in a thong or something. You know, cause that's what the kids want. This is no Corpse Bride or Rango. It's embarrassingly bad, but get it? Sherlock Gnomes? Like Holmes? They made a whole movie because of that play on words. Like, an entire movie, like actually an entire franchise, just based on that.
Come, Moriarty. Come dance with me.
And after that, there really isn't much to talk about Johnny Depp career-wise, so let's dive deep into his personal life, shall we? Like the gossiping leeches we are. Johnny Depp married that person known as Amber Heard in 2015, and it seems like they were always plagued with scandal. At first it was small things like smuggling their dogs into Australia, but that scandal was nothing compared to the scandalous scandals that would follow. Constant fighting, arguing, you know how it goes. Well, actually, I hope you don't know how it goes. And there was a strange incident where Johnny's fingertip was cut off after Amber threw a bottle at him, and then she burnt his face with a cigarette butt, and just weird stuff. Apparently she attacked him after he asked for a prenup. Just nasty stuff, and somehow James Franco's involved. It's just a bunch of horrible he said, she said stuff. It's just nastiness. It was trouble in paradise for this Hollywood it couple. And after a rocky year of marriage, Amber Heard filed for divorce. And then she filed a restraining order against him, claiming that he was constantly verbally and physically abusive throughout their relationship. She even posted photos of bruises on her face. It was bad. Johnny Depp's reputation as a person who didn't beat women was ruined. There's even a video of Johnny Depp throwing a temper tantrum in the kitchen, and out of context, it looks really bad.
Oh, you got this going? You got this going? Oh, really? Really?
It was kind of heartbreaking to see this side of our movie hero. I guess every pirate has a good side and a bad side. And that bad side was being revealed by Amber Heard all over the place, whether it be true or not. But for some reason, we all blindly believed her. Johnny and his reps always claimed that she was lying and trying to destroy him to get his money. There was lots of conflicting evidence about Amber Heard's story, and she seemed very erratic at times. But many fans and many in the media believed her. And you gotta remember, this was at the height of the #MeToo movement. Back when we thought #MeToo could do no wrong. And we all kinda had to believe all women, no matter what. And this actually backfired a great deal, proving that due process is actually important. Don't get me wrong, I like that hashtag and I think it did many good things, but not for Johnny. But we will get to Johnny's redemption in just a bit. And these horrible accusations caused many to demand that Johnny Depp be fired from the Fantastic Beasts and its sequel. But J.K. Rowling and the studio continued to work with Johnny Depp.
Do you think Dumbledore will mourn for you?
And I'm sorry, I'm not the biggest Harry Potter fan, so I have actually very little interest in watching these Fantastic Beast movies, but I respect them. It's just not for me. But it is a huge franchise, so I'm sure it helped Johnny hold on to some of his star power. And that's always good. But Amber Heard's wrath did not stop there. These allegations actually led to Johnny Depp being fired from any new Pirates of the Caribbean movies. That's right, Disney got rid of the guy who made these things interesting. Because Disney only hires saints with clean slates. Johnny also had major money problems. He was spending more than he was making. I guess he got too comfortable with that pirate paycheck, and he got close to $40 million in debt. He even sued his financial advisors for mismanaging his wealth, but they claimed that they were powerless to stop his out-of-control spending. He owns things like a private jet, over 40 really expensive cars, many mansions and villas and private islands, plus an extensive guitar and art collection. And legend has it that he spends over $30,000 on wine a month. And that's just his own personal consumption. And if you ask him, he's kind of proud of it. And he spent $5 million shooting Hunter S. Thompson's ashes into the sky with a big fireworks show. But that's what good friends do. And in 2018, the world was shocked to see a photo of a very thin Johnny Depp who was ghostly pale, even more pale than usual. He was becoming a real-life Tim Burton character. He looked like a thirsty vampire low on blood, or an aging actor low on adrenochrome. Rumors quickly circulated about Johnny's health, because the dude looked really sick. And this probably wouldn't have been news if Johnny had aged like a normal person, but the guy looked like he was 20 for like 30 years. And sometimes Father Time catches up all at once. And some say that the weight loss was just him getting into character for the film The Professor, but I'm not convinced. The most logical explanation is that Johnny Depp is a thirsty vampire.
Are you stoned or something?
They tried stoning me, my dear. It did not work.
Then, not too long ago actually, new evidence surfaced in the case of the Amber Heard divorce. Audio was released where Amber Heard basically admits to physically abusing Johnny Depp. She straight up admits it. In the tape, she continues to harass Johnny and says lots of nasty stuff. The audio is extremely damning and paints a whole new picture of their relationship. Johnny actually only admits to pushing Amber out of self-defense, and she seems to agree with him. She admits to starting the violence, and then makes fun of him, saying that no one will believe him. Johnny even claims that she painted the bruises on her face, and that she left poop in his bed. I'm not sure whose poop it was, but there was poop involved. Like I said, nasty stuff. Even more nasty than your usual Hollywood divorce.
You just said to me, you're defending yourself against me about something I didn't fucking do, and I'm not gonna fight with you because I know this shit lasts forever.
And after these tapes were released, everything completely changed. This got completely out of control, and I think we can all learn a lesson from this. I would actually like to take this time to say that I'm sorry to Johnny Depp for blindly believing Amber Heard. Like, I honestly was like, oh man, stupid wife beater, I hate him now. And I'm sorry. I think we all owe him an apology. Because it turns out she was the abuser. What a twist. And now Johnny is suing The Sun, the newspaper, not the thing in the sky, for defamation, wrongfully labeling him as a wife beater. And he's also suing Amber Heard for $50 million. And Johnny, I hope you get justice. #justice for Johnny. So Amber committed perjury many times, and she could actually face prison time. Motherfucking felony charges, yo. Domestic abuse is a serious game, and if you play around and lie about that stuff, well, the truth is gonna come back and hit you hard, smack you right in the face. No pun intended. And this is horrible, on so many levels. Not only did Amber's lies hurt Johnny Depp, but she also hurt the cases of other women who were actually abused, and now many are not gonna believe them because of this In the back of everybody's mind, they're gonna think, hey, maybe this is another Amber Heard situation. And of course, this case is still ongoing, so only time will tell. And we should all give Amber due process, and not judge her, but, you know.
Because you start physical fights?
Such a baby!
Because you start physical fights?
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did, so I had to get out of there.
Yes, you did. So you did the right thing, the big thing. You know what? You are admirable.
He's part bad boy, part rock star, part movie star, part character actor, and part Cherokee. But he's 100% Johnny Depp. Whatever that means. He could have had a very safe, simple career, cashing in on romantic comedies and conventional blockbuster leading man stuff. But no, Johnny carved his own path through some of the most unusual and interesting movies of all time, and accidentally became a superstar. For a little bit. I personally think that the art of cinema is a little bit better because Johnny Depp made some movies. Thank you, Mr. Depp. And that's what the happened to Johnny Depp. Up until May 2020, that is. Things can change, of course, as we know.